Hey guys, it's Mr. Myers. Let's just jump right into the topic for today. It is geometric constructions. This is 1.2 in your book. So I'm going to put the title at the top here. I got my makeshift piece of paper. All right, so if I can spell, geometric constructions. All right, constructions. So there are basically 3 vocab words you need to know for this section. And we're going to hit those real quick first because that's going to kind of explain what this whole section is about. So for the vocab, I like to use blue here. So the first thing is, what is a construction, right? So construction. Didn't all fit there. Construction. A construction is basically when you make a shape out of circles and lines. All right, so the tools that we use to make circles and lines are a compass. So it's a shape. Or drawing made with a compass. And, all right, so compass is what we use to make circles. If you want to make lines, you can pretty much use anything, right? So you can use like the side of your phone even, minus where the buttons are. You know, you could use a pencil, you could use a book. Anything that has a straight edge to it, we call a straight edge. So straight edge, all one word. All right, so construction. A shape or drawing made with a compass and straight edge. So basically, this whole section is about the things you can do by only making circles and lines. All right. So a couple of the really important things you need to know how to make from constructions. And you don't need to know how to make them yourself necessarily. You just have to be able to identify them on the test. So the 2 most important things are also vocab words in this section. And that is perpendicular bisector. So perpendicular, if it'll fit, perpendicular bisector. And this is pretty much exactly what it's going to sound like. I'm going to break this word down for you so it kind of makes sense. Perpendicular, you've probably heard of that before. Perpendicular, right? So perpendicular, that means that it makes a 90-degree angle, right? So makes 90 degrees, right? Or is 90 degrees. It depends on the context, I guess. And then bisector. So this one, we'll break this one down a little bit too. Bi means 2, like bicycle. And then sect means to cut. So a sector means like you cut it. So this means that we cut something exactly in half, right? So cut something exactly in half. All right, so a perpendicular bisector is actually going to be a line or line segment or something like that that's going to cut something exactly in half and make 90 degrees. So here's an example. Let's say I have point right here, point right here. If I cut this exactly in half, it would be something like this. So actually, let me use a different color for this. Let's use like a rainbow color or something so it really sticks out. So boom, there we go. 90 degrees. And then it cuts it in half. So the segment from the middle to one of the edges, each of those 2 segments that I just created that go from the middle to one of the edges are the same length. All right, perpendicular bisector. No biggie. And then the next one is angle bisector. All right, so we already know what bisector means now, right? So I'm not going to write that again. Bisector means cut something exactly in half. So angle, you should know what that is now too, right? Angle, the technical definition for angle is like when 2 rays have what's called a common endpoint, which really should be called a start point. But if you cut an angle in half, it looks a little bit different, right? Because it's not a segment. If I have an angle and I cut that in half, well, cutting this in half means it comes right out the middle here. And I didn't do a super good job at drawing this, but if I put little C's on there, little angle marks, those mean that these two angles are the same. So this could be like 30 degrees and this could be 30 degrees maybe. All right, it doesn't have to be 30, but whatever it is, it's the same. Each of those two angles that I just created are the same measure because I cut the angle in half. All right, so those are the two biggest things. And then I'm actually going to switch over to another little thing here and show you what it looks like to construct them, because you need to be able to identify what it looks like to construct them. So I'm going to switch over to a little thing called GeoGebra. All right, and we're going to actually make these guys. So usually you start with like a segment. So if I start with a segment, can come out to like here maybe. All right, so there's my segment. All right, so you can make that with a straight edge. Then I'm going to switch over to my circle tool here. And if I make a circle, now again, you normally make these with a compass and straight edge, but you know, since I'm on the computer, I figured I'd be all fancy and use this. So over here, if I make a circle and it's a circle with a center at B, and then the radius is that segment I just made, then I get this. Boom. Now if I do it again, but in reverse, I get a different circle. It's the same radius, AB, but the center is now at A. All right, so when I do this, a couple things happen. One, I just made a triangle. If you look here, it goes up to where that little C is. So A up to where that little C is. That's not the name of the point, but it's up where that is. So A to C to B. If you connect those, you get an equilateral triangle. So you can make an equilateral triangle, and then you can also make 60-degree angle because equilateral triangles have 60-degree angles. So that's pretty cool. And then the other thing, the reason why I made this little drawing, by the way, you normally make constructions by doing this first, making little circles. But here's another thing that happens. If I draw a line that goes from this intersection down to the other intersection, boom, like that, notice I just made a perpendicular bisector. All right, so G, that line G that goes straight up and down, is a perpendicular bisector to segment AB. All right, so G, perpendicular bisector to AB, it cuts it right in half. Notice this is vertical and AB is horizontal, so that's 90 degrees. And then it's actually going to cut it exactly in half. You can count the spaces, 1, 2, 1, 2. Boom, there we go. All right, so that's a perpendicular bisector. Make sure you guys have this in the notes as well. If you didn't write this down already, because it wasn't on the other paper, you can go ahead and pause the video real quick, and then you can write it down on the paper for the notes. All right, I'm still in line tool, so that's why I just did that. Give me just a second. All right, so now I'm gonna go up a little bit or over, just kind of move over so I have some extra space. Okay, and it's still trying to make little lines for me here because I'm still on my line tool. All right, so if I want to make an angle bisector, here's what you do. So let's make an angle first. Let's do a ray. So out this way. So there's my ray. And then make another one from the same point. So maybe like this. All right, so now I've got an angle. Now if I want to make an angle bisector, here's what you got to do. You take a circle, right, and you start it out from here to this point, connect it to this point. It doesn't really matter where these points are, you just connect the points to each other. So basically, if you notice, I'm kind of just making a diagonal perpendicular bisector. Pretty much everything comes from these perpendicular bisectors here. So actually, you know what? I made a boo-boo. Let me go back. Let me go back just a little bit here. So let me get rid of all that. I made a little boo-boo. Hold up. Go here. First thing, sorry, you have to do is you have to start with a circle that goes out. That way you have points that are the same distance away on that angle. So that's the first thing you got to do. All right. Then now we're going to make some more circles. We're going to make a circle that goes from this point out to this other point and then back again, which is basically a perpendicular bisector. Then all I have to do is just draw a ray that goes through that intersection. And then boom. So this looks maybe a little bit confusing. If I went a little fast, you can go back and play it again. But basically, that's your angle bisector. I'm going to show you what it looks like if I don't draw the whole circle next. All right, which is what it's going to look like on the test for this test and for, at the end of the year, the end of the semester, all that. So I'm going to show you what it looks like to construct it just on paper, right? So a perpendicular bisector construction would look something like this. We go out to here, and then you would just kind of have, actually, you know what? Let me move this down a little bit because we need a little bit more space. Let's move it down. So if I make the little circles, I really just need to make the little circle, I only need like this part of the circle. And if I go this way and make the other circle, I only need that part of the circle. So you're going to see like a little curvy X thing when you identify the construction. And then down here, I'm going to do it again, right? I'm only going to need the curvy part of the circle right here where it intersects with the other circle. And then you connect them, and there's your perpendicular bisector. All right? So all you're going to see, this is going to be on the test, so make sure you got this. All you're going to see is these little curvy things here, and then a right angle, and then maybe some tick marks. All right, that's all you're going to see as far as identifying the construction, because you don't have to draw the whole circle. All right, so now let's go down a little bit, and let's do the angle bisector one next. All right, so if I do the construction for that, just kind of sketch an angle here. If I do the construction for that, the first thing I did was I made a circle starting from the center of where the two rays meet. All right, so I just make a circle. Now notice I don't need to make the whole circle. Right, it would look like this if I made the whole circle. Right, you don't make the whole thing, just the pieces that intersect with the lines. Then I'm going to draw another little circle that kind of intersects right here. It's going to go out to here. All right, so notice this is going to look like that. This is going to look like this, and it's going to intersect right here. It's going to make that curvy X thing, all right? If you see that curvy X, that's a good sign. And then the angle bisector goes right through it, all right? You will see something like this on the test for sure. So make sure you guys got this. It's angle bisector, all right? So it cuts the angle exactly in half. This is what the constructions look like, all right? So these are the constructions for angle and perpendicular bisector. All right, and that is it for this. So make sure you got those notes. I believe there's going to be some sort of assessment on like if you've been taking notes or not. So make sure you've been keeping up with those things. And there should be an assignment with this as well. So check that out. And yeah, catch you guys in another geometry episode.